Huh?
That's a much better camera too. All right, so let's move that out of the way. Hey, what's up, guys? So we're trying to figure out a new setup. So I apologize. We're kind of working things through here, trying to make it work. Let's see here. Oh, oops.
Oh, and we're gone. Peekaboo.
All right. Okay, so setting up here.
I'm sure the audio is picking us up from here.
I don't know that yet, but I just want to make sure the camera is actually good. So let me just kind of explain a little bit of how the way I have this set up. So this is set up very much like a conversation. So I think this is good, right?
Looks good to me.
Looks pretty good, pretty even.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So pretty much like a conversation. So I don't do a lot of looking at the camera like the way you're doing.
Well, I'm sorry. I was just looking at the audio feed. It looks like it's super low.
So, hold on. Let's make sure we got the right mics set up.
Like, I don't usually look at the camera like what you're doing right now, Vin.
I know. So hold on. Edit the webcam. Oh, I think the mic I have to do with the actual computer. Yeah, I think I have to do that with the computer. Hold on 1 second here. Settings. Sorry, guys. This is all a new setup, so I'm just kind of messing around and see what this works. So that's hello, testing 1 2 1 1.
Test. Yeah. That's coming in pretty good.
Seems fine.
Yeah, don't know why it was showing it so low.
Okay.
On there. See
still,
how it
yeah, still low. I'm not sure why that is. That doesn't seem like.
Yeah.
1 2. See, this is louder here, right? 1 2 3. Okay, so hopefully it's not too low, guys.
If it is, I'm sure they'll tell you in the comments.
Yeah. You guys will let me know once it's too late.
Once it's too late.
In other words, once it's already recorded. Does that look straight to you? I feel like it's a little crooked. It looks pretty straight, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
All right. I'm not going to look in that direction again, though. I'm just going to look at you, Gus.
All right.
All right.
Look. Turn your light on.
Turn my light on.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's too bright. So press the power again.
Okay.
One more time.
Okay.
There we go.
Way better.
Yeah.
Awesome. I like it.
All right, cool.
Nice.
All right. So, hey, all right. Finally got it set up.
I know, dude.
All right, super excited. All right, cool.
Sure you don't want one of these?
I'm good. I'm excited. I don't know if that's going to go well with my coffee.
They taste like garbage, but they're getting the trick.
Well, you need it then, so that's all good.
Bad, man.
All right, it's all good. It's all good. Hey, welcome. I appreciate you guys coming. This is the Ortiz Anomaly podcast. My name is Gus Ortiz, and I am the KW Productivity Coach as well as KW Commercial Director here at our Market Center. I am here with Vinny. Is it Cordero?
So yeah, let's go with that.
How you pronounce it?
So I actually say Cordero.
Cordero.
Just so people will spell it right. But you're right, it is Cordero.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so Vinny Cordero is the appropriate pronunciation.
Sure, let's go with that.
Where is that? Is Cordero? Is that a Spanish?
Italian.
Huh?
So the Italian version is ARO. The Spanish version is ERO.
I see.
I'm like 99% Italian.
I gotcha.
A little sliver Spanish.
Gotcha. So I'm probably gonna have to fix what I wrote in there because I think I spelled it wrong. Sorry, guys.
That's cool. Dude, worse things have happened, bro. Like as recently as yesterday.
No, hey.
So yeah.
So how are you doing now? How are you keeping up? I mean, obviously we have this hurricane that came through here, Hurricane Milton, that was supposed to be the end of the world, apparently, and it ended up being not so much. I know that Sarasota probably got hit pretty hard, and they're dealing with some things. There's some flooding. There's definitely some tragedies that happen. How are you holding up?
I'm good. I had honestly bigger problems with my health than with the hurricane.
Yeah, you were mentioning that.
Yeah, so that's really, but
it's personal how I am.
Yeah, but our fence blew off, but I fixed it yesterday.
Okay.
My mailbox blew off.
Oh wow.
Fixed that yesterday.
Yeah.
But roof's
Okay.
fine, house is fine.
So
Right where I left it.
well, I'm glad to hear that. And your family,
Yeah,
I'm assuming family's good to go.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We had a hurricane party. It was great.
Hey, we used to do that. We used to do hurricane parties in South Florida when I used to live in South Florida. That was like the thing to do. Anytime a hurricane came in, like literally there was like a hurricane. People are just gathering to get together. It could be at someone's house. Sometimes it might be. Sometimes the restaurants would stay open. I don't think they allow that to do that anymore now.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
they would literally go. We would go to different places to have a quote unquote hurricane party. Most of the time because we didn't take hurricane seriously, and then Hurricane Andrew came and changed all that.
Yeah.
So that was a scary one. But yeah, no, I totally understand that. That's funny.
Yeah, man, that's crazy.
Old times. So the reason why you're here is obviously not for us to talk about hurricanes, is to really kind of talk about your business. You're relatively new to the business of real estate,
brand spanking,
and I loved your energy coming into this, and your momentum has been fantastic. You've done you kind of really transitioned into full time pretty fast, and you start out dual career, and what I'm interested in is hearing like what even got you into the thought process of getting into real estate in the first place.
How much time do we have?
Well, it's about an hour and a half.
Okay.
So you got a little bit of time.
Sure. I tend to be long-winded, so I'll start, and then you could redirect.
Sure.
Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. So, Ed.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So Ed and I met through pickleball.
Okay.
And I kind of became the mayor of the pickleball courts. In that, very quickly, I was inclusive and had a whole separate WhatsApp group chat so we could all go.
Nice.
I'm the guy that would bring the lights down when it would get dark and all that stuff. Okay.
When you say bring the lights down, what do you mean?
So in Claremont, the Arts and Rec Center, they didn't have lights. They still don't have lights. So when it would get dark, I literally have 4 lights on stands, and I would run an inverter to my truck.
Hilarious.
And we would play pickleball into the night. But real quick, one night we're playing on these lit courts from my own personal lights.
Yeah.
2 cars roll up, and these guys walk on the court, and they're wearing suits. And they're like, "Oh, this is really cool. We love this. This is great." Turns out it was the mayor and one of the city councilors.
Oh, wow.
And they told me it was really awesome that we brought our own lights. And the next day when we got there was a sign on the fence that said, "You can't bring your own lights anymore."
Oh, nice. Of course.
Like, thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for nothing.
Right, exactly. So, but the long story short of it is that's how Ed and I had met.
Okay.
And Ed was like, "Dude, I think you've got the personality for real estate."
Mm.
And I'm like, man, listen, I work for a friend. I'm super loyal. Like, not for me.
Yeah.
And the economy took a little bit of a turn.
Sure.
Inflation.
Yeah.
Can I say that on here? I can.
Inflation?
Yeah.
I don't see why that would be a problem.
Well, I just want to avoid political stuff if possible.
I don't avoid political stuff, so you don't have to worry about that with me.
Well, then this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Sweet. Well, in that case,
I'm not the guy.
Dude, I love it. That's great to hear. Cool. So, inflation. And all of a sudden, my dollars weren't going as far. Sure. I was making less. I was selling digital marketing, B2B, and basically was like, "Hey, Ed, you know what? Maybe I'll take you up on that now."
Okay.
And then I met Mike Leonardson.
Yes.
Who was like, "Yeah, dude, you're gonna be fine." And I'm like, "Okay." Got all my schooling and everything done in about 3 weeks. Went and took my test at 1:00 in the morning. And
want to make sure this camera's good.
Oh, they don't got to see me. As long as they hear me, that's cool.
Important they see you.
So banged out my school in 3 weeks. Took registered with DBR, DBPR, fingerprinting, all that stuff.
Yep.
Took my test 1:00 in the morning. I was just ready to rock. Met with Rich before Cameron, right? And then basically had a wonderful conversation with him. Almost felt like he was like, you don't need us, go somewhere else. And to me, if you're going to be honest and transparent with me, you have me at hello.
Yeah.
So I'm a K-dubber for life, dude. Like, that's just, okay.
So good.
But yeah, so from there, it was just kind of like, just go. That's all I know how to do.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So
yeah.
so you got into the business, just sort
Mhm.
of your circumstances kind of like led you to at least explore, which was cool. But
Mhm.
then you got into the business, and you kind of doubled down on like taking every moment that you had available to
Mhm.
commit to doing real estate.
Oh yeah.
Like, what was the thing that kind of got in your head? Like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is my plan. Like, what was your strategy coming in to this business? Because
Yeah.
you had an active business that you were working within with
Yeah.
your friend,
Mhm.
and then now you're okay, all right. So now that when I'm off, I'm going to be doing this stuff, and for
Yeah.
how long? So, what was your strategy going into that? I mean, did you have like something set in your mind, or
Yeah.
okay, what was that?
So I would work for my friend 8:30 to 4:30
Okay,
Monday to Friday,
yeah,
and literally from 4:31, unless something else popped up,
yeah.
I was immediately working on my own website,
Mhm.
my marketing, my social media, um, watching videos, and even just listening to other stuff in the background,
Yeah.
learning from as many voices as possible.
Hmm.
I am a eclectic, active learner. That's my personality.
Okay.
So for me, sitting in a classroom is like torture.
Sure.
So what I would rather do is learn a little bit and then watch the master go,
Hmm.
and then follow, try it myself,
Yeah.
fail miserably, fall on my face, go, that sucked. Let's not do that again. For me, that I learn better that way.
Sure.
Um, so that's basically what I was doing. Uh,
So, just for clarity, because
yeah,
we talk about this type of thing all the time, this idea of failing forward, right?
yeah, yeah,
And that's exactly what that is. It's this concept of like being okay with the idea of failing,
totally.
right? Like completely embracing this idea of failing, and
Mhm.
then just using that as a learning opportunity so that you can go ahead and do that thing again, but now you
Mhm.
can do it better
Yeah.
because you learn from the failure, right? And then that allows you to move forward, which is
Yeah.
why we call it failing forward. So that's one of the sort of key tenets that our brokerage specifically talks about quite a lot, which is
Mhm.
something that I've always agreed with. I think that I think we have a culture. When I say we have a culture, I would say uh, uh, Americans have a culture of being scared of failure. Right, that's
Yeah.
a very common culture. My parents would, talk about, can't fail in life, and
Mhm.
you hear about this all the time, right? In school, failing is bad and all this other stuff, and the thing that really is impressive with the way that you came into this business is like, all of those sort of established norms that we see in American culture. You just like, threw that out the window and be like, hey, I want to fail because I want to
Mhm.
learn, which was awesome. And it was kind of cool to see that from an outsider looking in. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because it's not like you didn't necessarily throw caution to the wind so much as you just went in, you did it, you asked
Yeah.
questions as you were going along, but you were still like, I know I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm gonna
Totally.
I'm gonna just kind of jump into this deep end. Yeah,
I still don't know what I'm doing.
that's okay. That's all
Like
right.
that's
And hey,
honestly.
hey, listen, if it's any consolation,
Uh-huh.
like it doesn't seem like it gets any better the more that you're in the business,
That's
because
awesome.
like, as the deeper that you get into the, like anything, right? The more you learn about a thing, the
Mhm.
more you realize how little you know about the thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's almost like that.
That curve.
Yes.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting. I think just in general, this is sort of a
Mhm.
life thing, right? Like that happens in life. The more you realize in life that you're trying to figure this thing out, and you start realizing that I don't know anything of what's going on.
Yeah.
Like it's much worse than I thought it was.
Yeah.
you
Well,
know?
I think also, interestingly enough, oftentimes in my life, because I've always unfortunately had this personality.
Yeah.
So oftentimes in my life, people have mistaken that about me for arrogance,
Mm.
but it's not arrogance.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I actually, all right. So I mean this next thing humbly.
Yeah. Yeah.
First of all, wisdom and wisdom's the application of knowledge.
Yeah.
Knowledge is cumulative.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's not that we're smarter than Einstein. It's just we have his shoulders
Yeah.
to go to
We
the
built
next,
on it. Yeah, yeah.
right? So my perspective is like, and again, I know that this could almost sound arrogant, but I promise it's actually from a place of humility. I so respect the hard work that has brought us to where we are,
Mm-hmm.
but I also realize these are human beings. They're not aliens or superhumans or
Yeah.
deities.
Yeah, yeah.
So if they could figure out this far, why can't I take the football that they dropped here
Oh, sure.
and carry it further? I don't ascribe to the argument from authority philosophy,
Yeah, yeah.
right? I think in the age of information, anybody who has the ability to do critical thinking can figure it out for themselves, and an
Mm-hmm.
object in motion will stay in motion.
Absolutely.
So even though it can almost come across like, who's this guy think he is, that he's going to try to get creative outside of the models or whatever,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's not my angle.
Mm-hmm.
My angle is just, cool, I know this part works and that's my foundation, but now I want to have fun and get creative from there
Sure.
and kind of figure out what works for me,
Yeah.
because I want to live a life worth living, right?
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, that kind of builds on the idea. It's like you could arguably say that the the man or woman who invented the wheel was
Hmm.
probably one of the smartest people on the planet.
Yeah.
And at the time, they
Hmm.
were the smartest person on the planet, right?
Hmm.
But you talk about a wheel today to any regular human being, they're going to be like, yeah, well, that's obvious. Well, it wasn't
Right.
obvious before that guy or that gal figured that out, right?
Yeah.
So I totally agree with where you're coming from with that, which is kind of cool. It's this idea of like, hey, the accumulative knowledge of what came before us is where we're starting from, which gives us sort of a strategic advantage,
Hmm.
right? As we develop as a society, hopefully we don't completely obliterate ourselves and remove all of that accumulated knowledge.
And we're this close.
Yeah, we're not
We're
far.
this close.
We're not far.
Yeah.
So, all right. So now you kind of you've committed to it. You've been taking this sort of you essentially we're making this was a side hustle, right? It started
Yeah.
as a side hustle. You did that for a few months, and then something happened, something clicked for you, and you were like, I need to ramp this up. What happened?
The reality that the amount of effort I would put to make a sale for the company I was with
Mm-hmm.
was similar to the amount of effort I would put to make a sale in real estate.
Gotcha.
This would yield me about 150 to $300.
Yeah.
This would yield me like 10 to 20 G's.
Yeah.
I mean, hello.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm not even like a greedy psycho.
No, no,
Okay.
that's
Obviously,
obvious. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I would love to change my family tree.
Yeah.
But I'm not looking to buy yachts and live a lavish life. In fact, like, I've done no planning for retirement, and people tell me I'm crazy. They're probably right.
Yeah.
This is the first time like my family's making real money ever,
Yeah.
like ever. Um, and I just, my personality, the idea of at 60 or 65 or 70 or 80, like, just watching TV on a couch somewhere,
Yeah.
shoot me,
Yeah. No,
put me
no.
out of my misery. Like, I want to be building relationships,
Sure.
helping people for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So if I reach a point of complete total independence financially, I'll do exactly what I'm doing for free. Um, Seriously,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I love.
You love that part of it.
I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I got the cheesy closing shirts and the confetti cannons, and
Yeah. Yeah.
like, I love walking people through that. I Don't get me wrong, sometimes it's super stressful.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, buying and selling home is a highly stressful endeavor, specifically for the family doing the buying and selling.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
but I love it. I mean, this is why, I think I shared with you, I used to be a pastor.
Yeah.
So like, I I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would work so much, sometimes I would forget what time it was.
Yeah.
Like, I And that again, that's part of my problem. I have an obsessive personality,
Mm,
but I really like. I'm very extroverted. I love connecting with people.
yeah,
Like I get paid to do now what I got in trouble for in school.
that's so funny.
Like
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
so, I'm living a good life.
That's awesome.
You know.
So, now that you've essentially kind of transitioned into full time,
Mhm.
so what does it look like for you? What do you envision for, let's say, the next year, next five
Yeah.
years? Like, what do you see in this business for yourself?
For me, sorry. For me specifically,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So one of the things I love to do, besides meeting buyers and sellers and investors and helping them, I love pouring into people.
Hmm.
I love being a hero maker.
Okay.
All right. And
So
so,
talk about that.
yeah.
What does that mean? Being a hero maker.
So, a hero maker, well, can I tell you what I did in ministry and then how I think it might
Yeah,
relate to this?
absolutely. Yeah.
So, in ministry, I spent a lot of time in youth and young adult and family ministry.
Hmm.
And I actually got in trouble with the lead pastor for something I did because I took the young generation and I would raise them up as leaders and I would give them opportunities and
Hmm.
I would treat them more mature than they were ready.
Yeah.
But then I would take them under wing and I would literally teach them how to do expository preaching,
Mm.
how to lead, how to I would just take them under wing
Yeah.
and reproduce. And then I created a series in the youth ministry called the Up Next series.
Mm.
And in this series, it was literally student led. And I had the lead guy like, dude, if you're having them preach, what am I paying you for? You know?
Oh.
And I'm like, last time I checked, Bible says the pastor has like one job, and that's to equip the saints to do the work of the ministry,
Mm.
not to do the work of the ministry and have them watch. So I think you're wrong, and I'm the one that's got this one right, buddy.
You're right. Right.
That's a whole other story for a whole
Sure.
other day.
Sure. Yeah.
But um, yeah, I like that's why even when we talk about systems, where I want to build a team and grow
Hmm.
it out,
Yeah.
and delegating different specific tasks,
Hmm.
I'm not sure I'm on board with that yet. Now I don't know what I don't know,
Sure.
but here's the reason why. I never want to feel like my team becomes an assembly line of specialists.
Hmm.
I I want to always have the brand of whoever on my team is holding your hand is the one holding your hand from start to finish.
Sure.
Is the one who's going to celebrate with you. Is the one who's going to, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also don't want to necessarily take people and force them to be mini me's either.
Hmm.
I want them to be free to express themselves and be their own. So I'm not even entirely sure what that looks like yet.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and
You know?
that's understandable. I think one of the things that you have to at least be aware of is when
Mhm.
you're building a team. Typically, the difference between um, you know single agents that work as independent agents, and agents
Mhm.
that work on a team, the mindset is different, right? Typically someone, and it's not always the case.
Mhm.
Oftentimes what is the case is that someone who enjoys working as an independent agent
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily like to work on a team, right? They usually will have a preference one way or the other, and vice versa, right?
Okay.
And the reason why that's the case is because the independent agent enjoys doing every facet of the business, and the agents that are on the team really enjoy specific elements of the business. And when you build a team, the ones that typically stay the longest are the ones that enjoy specific elements of the business, right? So, like, for example, um, I'm on a team right now, and the elements that I enjoy, right, are the people part. I enjoy working with people,
Mhm.
and I in helping them and doing all of that stuff, and I enjoy the marketing part, right? And then all of the other stuff I don't really care for, not a fan of, right?
Yeah. Mm.
However, what was great about the team that I happened to join is they were very open to allowing me to uh, ex- explore and express sort of the marketing elements that I enjoy doing,
Mhm.
right? They allowed me to explore that. So I was able to still talk to people and do the people side and explore the marketing side, which I have a background in and I enjoy doing. And then all of the other stuff that's related to real estate, most of it administrative and the planning and all that stuff, right? That actually got leveraged out, and that was okay for me, right? Now, what's interesting is now as a commercial agent, because my team is not commercial specific, they're residential. I have to now be more of like an independent agent because I don't have that. The infrastructure that exists on my team is not designed for the type of specialization that I have as a commercial agent. Just different. So I have to behave like a single agent now. But I don't know that a lot of people, most people, I think that join a team, they like the idea of specializing because it means they don't have to be responsible for a lot of the other things. And then those people that enjoy being independent agents enjoy doing all those independent things. And oftentimes they don't make for good team dynamics because they want to be doing the thing that, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that there's right or wrong here, but I'm just saying that tends to be the case for most agents. Typically agents that, and that's not good or bad. It's just, certain agents like to behave certain ways.
Well, so, and I would want to set agents on my team free to do it however they want. And to be honest with you, even in my own life, so that same attitude of kind of jump in and fail. I'm experimenting with and learning what I suck at and what I don't suck at.
Yeah, that's good.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I'm a big fan of play to your strengths and hire for what you suck at.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, like, my people skills tend to be really good. My organizational skills tend to be really bad.
Yeah.
My creativity tends to be really good. My empathy, like, I've actually been told by a friend, I made a terrible manager because when somebody sucked at their job, I would basically sit down with them and give them pointers and encourage them, but never tear them down.
Right.
And I don't know. That's just not in my.
No, you don't rule with an iron fist. I mean, I think that's.
Well, I do at home. Sorry. I just kicked the table. I don't know if I just messed up your. Sorry.
You're good.
So I rule with an iron fist when I'm super frustrated.
Right.
But what's crazy is, like, I have an amazing amount of patience for strangers and friends.
Sure.
And none for my children.
That's so funny.
Yeah, they think it's hilarious.
I'm sure.
But yeah, I mean, like, so I coach flag football on Saturdays, right? And like, another kid drops the ball. I'm like, it's okay, little Johnny, good try. My son drops the ball. You suck. Get on the bench. Yeah, I'm still working through that.
That's okay. Hey, we all have our strengths and weaknesses, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We got to figure it all out.
Exactly.
Right. But hey, look, at the end of the day, you're responsible for how your kid turns out at the end of the day, right?
Thanks for that reminder, bro.
That's how it ends up. Hey, we all have that same responsibility. If you have kids, anyone who has kids, that's the same responsibility. Yeah. So I do think that there's a little bit of tough love that's required in order for us to be able to do that, right? I think that in a society where there are a lot of challenges in life, I think we have to make sure that we prepare our children for the challenges that they're going to face. It doesn't, there's, even though it's easier now to live in this world than it ever has been, there's still challenges out there that are going to work their way into your life to try to break you down, right? And we have to make sure that we prepare our children to be able to handle that. I mean, I think that's the case, right? So I did a lot of love with my kids, and they got frustrated with me. It's funny because my wife, my the people who know me, like, because I tend to be so chill, except for when my kids do something, right? They're like, I never would have thought you were so strict. I was like, yeah, well, just, they got to do this, or they got to do that, or they got to pay attention, or whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah.
Because we have a responsibility to make sure that they're prepared for the life that they're going to be walking into, right?
Sometimes in dramatic fashion.
Yeah, exactly. So,
like literally yesterday.
Okay.
So my youngest is 10.
Okay.
And I had my boys go out and start raking all the stuff in the yard. So we're just under an acre.
Sure.
So they're raking the yard.
Yeah.
While I go to Home Depot to get the stuff to fix the fence. And my little guy tells me they're done, and they were not done.
Yeah.
And it was not even close.
Right.
And rather than just going outside and saying to him, "Hey, buddy, you missed like, I don't know, 90% of the yard."
Yeah.
Instead, my response was, "Son, laziness is completely unacceptable. And here's the thing. You see the life that your father has provided for you, and I bust my ass and do all this for you? Let me tell you something. If I was your boss right now and you told me this was a finished job, you'd be fired. And if you're fired, you can't provide for your family. And you're not going to be able to provide for your kids the way I'm providing for you. And you're not going to have a job, and you're going to fail at life, all because you're not properly doing this and taking some responsibility." And he 10 years old, looking at me with sad puppy eyes, goes in the house crying. And I'm like, maybe a little too far. But some stranger's kid, I'm like, "Good job, little Johnny. Keep it up. This one looks great."
Yeah,
So,
right. That's
so yeah, but like you said, right? We're responsible for
Yeah.
it, So, and so I was an only child.
Okay.
Still am. My dad is no longer with us. He got sick after 9/11. I'm originally from New York. But, I've got that both taught to me and modeled by my father, amazing work ethic.
Yeah.
And my dad taught me from not just what he said, but how he lived. You work unto God. You got a crappy boss, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Work unto God. Self-employed, you're your own boss, then you've got the worst boss, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. You work unto God, right? And that's the mindset that I'm trying to ingrain into my children.
Yeah.
And so, like, we all have our pet peeves, right?
Yeah.
Entitledness and laziness, to me, are just the ugliest, nastiest things that if I smell it slightly on my kids, I go into panic mode.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know what laziness yields.
Yeah.
Like a life of poverty.
And entitlements.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm terrified for them.
Yeah. That's I completely agree with you on that. Let's
Dude, come on.
All right, so shifting gears. I want to get back to like what's happening in the world today, right? And how that ultimately impacts the way that you envision your business. Right now there have been a lot of changes specifically in the real estate world. There's obviously a lot of changes that's happening with our economy. That a lot of uncertainty, specifically, in your view, in your mind. I mean, I don't know how much, because obviously you're just getting into. This is your first business that you own.
First one that's actually operational. Yeah.
Okay, so as you become a business owner, you start to become a lot of more in tune with like what's going on in the economy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Based on what you're seeing in the world, specifically, obviously in the United States, do you have any concerns about like how this could potentially impact your business, or are you like how are you seeing what's happening in the economy and what's going on in the United States, and how is that impacting the way that you're seeing the development of your business?
Okay, so there's actually probably like 5 or 6 different questions in there.
I'm trying to give you as many different opportunities to answer.
Yeah. Yeah. No. So let me kind of unpack that a little bit.
Sure.
So there's what I see, but then there's the action I take, and those aren't necessarily related because of my mindset. Okay. So what I see a fiat economy being held up by duct tape. I see people freaking out. I see a nation more divided than it's ever been.
Yep.
So when you take, now keep in mind, like in the Civil War, I was about to say the last Civil War, as if we're in one. But in the actual Civil War, we were still on the gold standard at that point.
Yeah.
Right. We currently have a fiat economy.
Yeah.
If things do unravel, the economy will not have anything to be held on to.
Right.
So that's absolutely terrifying.
Right. It means
Right?
what we're talking about for, and again, I don't know how many people are watching it, how much they follow the
Right.
things of the economy. It basically means that our economy is based on this idea of confidence.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And whether or not people have confidence in the dollar, and if they don't have confidence in the dollar, then the dollar goes away.
Right. So
Yeah.
like confidence with faith.
Yeah.
Con fide,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a right. So um however, however, I'll give you the flip side too, right? Great Depression
Hmm.
was 18% unemployment rate.
Yeah.
That means 82% of people were working,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, here's the deal. Have there been empire falls, economic declines, wars, plagues, terrible things that have almost wiped out humanity for the last, let's say, on record, that we actually have on actual record, 9,000 years plus?
Hmm.
We're still here, right?
Yeah.
Like somebody in both of our lineage experienced a whole lot of crap,
Hmm.
and here we are.
Yeah.
So my perspective is, um, become the most skilled, lead with value, put other people's needs before your own,
Hmm.
and ultimately, as controversial as this may seem in our modern age, trust God for the difference.
Mm.
I firmly believe you do the right thing by others, that God's got your back, and that I conduct my business with integrity first,
Hmm.
with transparency.
Sure.
I tend to be buyer heavy, and I've walked through homes with my buyers. And don't get me wrong, I'd love to make commission, but been like, hey, man, can I point some stuff out from what you shared with me? Maybe this house doesn't work for you.
Hmm.
And maybe we've been house hunting for a long time, and I would love for them to just get into contract
Sure.
and be done with it. But it's not the right house for them, and
Hmm.
I need to sleep at night.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, um, yeah, I truly believe that if you just do what's right,
Hmm.
you put God first, you put others before yourself, you're not going to miss a lot of meals.
Hmm.
And can I scientifically or mathematically prove that? No, but I mean, I'm doing okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of, I don't know if that fully answers the question.
Well, I mean, the
Uh,
question is an open-ended question, so I guess I'm just trying to hear, because I understand, like, sort of, you have a philosophy behind your business,
yeah.
and the question is that does that does that is there anything that these outside elements would change about how you would approach your business, because as it relates to what's going on in the world, right?
So the answer to that is no,
Okay.
because my business is a micro economy.
Okay.
So while other people are taking steps backwards, I have quadrupled my income
Hmm.
in 6 months.
Right.
So what for other people right now, statistically speaking, in the United States of America,
Hmm.
credit card debt is at its highest.
Yep.
Income compared to where your money gets you is at a very close to all-time low.
Hmm.
So I should be feeling the effects of that. It's the opposite for me.
Yeah.
So I'm building my business on these principles. And if the money is there for me to hire, I'm going to hire.
Yeah.
I'm not looking down the road on how the economy's going. Anybody who's waiting for the election, like in our industry, to buy or sell or anything like that, that's so silly.
Yeah.
Because no matter which party wins, it always works out great in the real estate market.
Yeah.
So, and I'm a rookie and I know that.
Yeah.
So, so I'm not really worried about that.
Yeah.
And I'll okay. Let me kind of take this to another level too. I'm working on my skills. So I truly believe if you have sales skills,
Hmm.
you can be in any country, anytime, anywhere, any economy, and feed your family.
Sure.
So even if the Living in Orlando, Florida team didn't work out,
Yeah.
we're going to be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we're going to be just fine.
So, what would you say then is, because I have my own thoughts on, like,
Mhm.
because a lot of people are concerned about what's going on with the economy and how that's ultimately going to affect the United States. And, there's all kinds of other layers that are kind of involved. I'm not sure if you're familiar with BRICS and what's going on. Okay, so, what do you say is the solution in your mind's eye, if you have one, or if you've thought about this at all, with regard to the United States and its ability to provide value to the rest of the world? Because right now, one of the biggest challenges with our economy is that we don't make anything, right? And what we don't really provide anything for the rest of the world. We have been the consumers of all of the things that the rest of the world has been creating, and that's a part of what has made our economy so strong. We've been a consumer-based economy. Obviously, there's only so much you can do. You can only do that for so long. We have to eventually start actually doing things for other economies in order for the dollar to continue to have some value, in order for people to feel like they can still continue to provide for their families and stuff like that. Like, do you have a thought on what we as a nation could do that might help help us to be a bigger player in the world economy? Because right now most of our economics is based on sort of these sort of gigantic corporations. These are your Amazons, your Apple, Google. You take those out of the equation, and all of a sudden, like, if you look at the stock market, absent of like the top 10 corporations that currently run our society, we have our economy looks awful. Like those top 10, probably like 7 of them, but like those top 10 companies, it's like 10 of them. They basically are driving our economy, right? Those disappear for whatever reason. If you look at the stock market without those particular businesses, our economy looks like it's in the trash, right? So, do you have any thoughts on like what we can do as individuals that might make an impact?
I have so many thoughts on that.
Let's get it out.
Okay, cool. So I can get political.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. Cool. So the Bible says that a wise man leaves an inheritance to his children's children.
Yes.
A dumbass can make a lot of money, leave it to his children, and his children will squander it.
Yeah.
A wise man doesn't just leave his children the money. He leaves his children the tools that he used to amass that wealth and the right heart to bless a community with it. That's wisdom.
Sure.
Okay. I don't think you could separate love and wisdom. In fact, some of the most loving people I know are some of the wisest people I know.
Sure.
And I think this comes from a biblical worldview is where I come from. I'm going to come from that on every angle all the time.
That's
okay.
Cool. Yeah.
So when I look at the state of our country, for the first time in our history, we are more renters than owners, right? For the first time in our history, we are at an all-time low of entrepreneurialism. We have forgotten that we're the land of opportunity. We've become the land of entitlement. And then we have politicians on both sides playing to that, basically lying to your face, but it feels good.
Yeah.
And then what drives me nuts, my wife is obsessed with these like little reels and TikToks and all that stuff, and loves to show me at night. And the average person my age, I'm 38, the average person my age and younger knows nothing of our history.
Yeah.
Knows nothing of how we became a superpower. Knows nothing of the responsibility that comes with that. Knows, like, we have become fat, lazy, entitled, bratty children. Everything that I hear these young people talking about on college campuses that they hate, oh, it's the elites and they're not paying their fair share, and my college should be free and my healthcare should be free and everything should be free. Nothing's free.
Right.
Literally nothing is free in this life.
Right.
And that mindset is why we're screwed unless we have a revolution of thought. And that revolution of thought is, let's start with, why don't you genuinely care for your neighbors? Like I hear the debate of capitalism and communism, and the fact that we're even considering that as an option in our country is
Right.
mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
Okay, the reason for that debate is because of the wrong mindset.
Sure.
True capitalism says, how can I provide for you in a fair manner that helps you also provide for my family?
Mm.
The better I serve you, the more wealthy I'll become
Hmm.
by me taking care of your needs and putting your needs before my own.
Yeah.
That's the original concept.
Sure. Sure. I think one of the challenges we see is that capitalism. I'm a firm believer in capitalism. Let me open with that. But the challenge is that capitalism, like any other system, can be corrupted.
Oh, totally.
And we're currently living in a time when you have corporatism that has completely run amok with capitalism, taking advantage without any kind of guardrails at all. So I'm not a big fan of um, you know how would I say this? I don't like the government coming in and telling people what to do
Hmm.
with regard to their business or whatever, their personal lives, stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of that. However, for certain things, I think that it's reasonable to have some kind of guardrails. And I guess trying to figure out where
Hmm.
those guardrails are
Yeah.
is really the argument to be had, right? Is like, okay, well,
Yeah.
where do we put these guardrails so that people can feel like they're actually like
Yeah.
free to still do the things that they need to do as a corporation or as a business or as an individual, but there's limits, right? Like, I'm free to do whatever I want as long as I don't hurt you,
Yeah.
right?
So,
Personally, you know what I'm saying? So there's some there's
dude,
some there's some lines in the sand that you kind of have to draw, right? And having that argument as to where those lines are is, I think, where the trick is. So I think that one of the reasons why you get a lot of pushback from people who are not
mhm,
well educated about what capitalism ultimately is that they see what corporatism has done to
yeah.
capitalism, and they assume that that is what capitalism is, and that's not what capitalism is,
Right.
right? That is a bizarro version of capitalism, and
Hmm.
not what capitalism should be. And I think the other challenge that you see a lot of people do is they attribute capitalism as uh, a social infrastructure as opposed to an economic infrastructure,
Right. Yes.
right? And then you see these ideas of like, oh, socialism and capitalism. And I'm like, well, no, capitalism and socialism are not parallel.
Right.
Like, you can have a socialist country that still has capitalism in it. There's
China right now.
that's a yeah, exactly. So it's actually
Yeah.
more communism than it is
Right.
socialist over there, and they have a full capitalist system within it because
Right.
capitalism is an economic system. So I think that we there's a lot of misunderstanding of what these things are. So they're
Mhm.
having arguments with things that they don't know how to they don't know what they are. They don't know how to talk about them, and they're making assumptions because they see this sliver of information and assume that is an example of all of it.
Yeah. So I agree with you. Here's the problem from my angle, and let me just be really clear. This is my like my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, we have lost our roots of who we are as a nation.
Hmm.
Um, common values that what I propose is the answer isn't actually the answer.
Hmm.
So, like, let's talk about those boundaries,
Hmm.
right? So, I think it was John Adams who said that our Constitution was written for a religious and God-fearing people,
Hmm.
and that if we were to get away from that, that our Constitution would allow horrible atrocities. I believe, what we've seen for basically the last 100 years is a hybrid of capitalism mixed in with socialism because of government creating boundaries, picking winners and losers in the auto industry, picking winners and
Hmm.
losers in the banking industry,
For sure.
impacting the housing industry,
Yeah.
all that stuff. Allowing these giant corporations to become too big to fail and getting behind them, and then, you know, finding ways to hijack money. And like, if you think we're actually giving Ukraine all that money and that's not being laundered,
Right.
you're on something real good.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, right. So, what I'm saying is what the actual bounds for true capitalism is actually a fear of God. Like, I had this conversation with a friend of mine recently
Mm-hmm.
because he doesn't believe in capitalism, but he's also a Christian.
Mm.
And I said to him, "Hey, so like, if one of the Ten Commandments is like, thou shalt not steal,
Mm-hmm.
then God's clearly not a socialist because how could you steal if there's no such thing as personal property rights?"
Mm.
So, right. And he's like, well, if you've got two farmers that both own land and there's a river that runs through and they both need that river, and the guy who's further upstream diverts the river, but it's his land and he could do whatever he wants, he's hurting his neighbor. Don't you think we should do something about that? To which I say, of course. I believe God calls us to do something about that. I'm like, but there is a moral foundational law, not that yeah, government is to enforce, but not to create.
Mm.
So real quick, like our founding, right? We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at our Bill of Rights, when you look at the philosophy of our founding fathers,
Mm-hmm.
their philosophy of government was government existed to protect God-given rights.
Mm-hmm.
That's different than every other government's philosophy,
Mm-hmm.
which is government grants rights. If government grants rights and government can take rights away.
Right, right.
If God grants rights and government oversteps, I now, as a God-fearing person, have the right to stand up for my rights,
Right,
to do whatever it takes to protect my rights and
right.
to protect the rights of my neighbor.
And just for clarity, this is the whole self-evident.
Correct.
That's what they're talking about.
That's exactly what they're
Right,
talking about.
right,
Right.
right.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, literally, you look at the Declaration of Independence,
Mm-hmm.
which there was originally 32 grievances, not 27.
Mm-hmm.
But two of the colonies wouldn't agree on the other five, and we would only send over what we were all unified on.
Yeah,
Okay, because in our original declaration, by the way, this is in the Library of Congress.
yeah.
Literally, they condemned King George for bringing slavery to our shores. That's
Mm.
one of the things they wanted illegal from day one.
Yeah.
Two colonies wouldn't get behind that, and so those got thrown out. Which is why Jefferson changed the opening to say, "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal." That was his middle finger to those other two colonies
Mm-hmm.
for not allowing us to make slavery illegal from day one.
Mm-hmm.
My point is that those foundational truths are all interwoven.
Mm.
So you have a God-fearing people who is going to put their neighbor before themselves, who the Constitution is just the rules in which we all agree to play by.
Yeah.
Okay, but if the refs start cheating and favoring certain parties, corruption happens. And that's basically what I see where we're at today.
Yeah.
Much like how the refs keep helping the Chiefs win.
Yeah.
So, in the same way, our refs have become these corrupt politicians.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, for the record, I'm a Christian conservative.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I think both parties are way to the left of where our founding fathers were.
Mm-hmm.
And some people might be like, well, hey, you need to grow and change. Cool. That's great. There's certain things we don't change on. Principles we don't change on.
Yeah.
Ways in which we apply those principles need to change every day.
Sure.
Absolutely. But advanced technology doesn't mean I have permission now to not care for my neighbor.
Right.
And to not put their needs before my own.
No.
Locked doors, they just keep honest people honest.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's the same thing with our Constitution. Is, you look at our economy, you look at our politicians, you look at how money is handled, you look at all of this stuff, we're basically it's all corrupt. And what's crazy too, what drives me absolutely insane,
Mm-hmm.
it's election time, right?
Yeah.
And I see every news station, Democracy 24. And I literally, you could ask my wife when you finally meet her, right? Every time I lose my mind, I'm like, we are not a motherfucking democracy. We are a constitutional republic.
Right.
Mob doesn't rule here.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, Judeo Christian foundings. We had atheists and Muslims here from day one.
Sure.
From day one.
Right.
But Sharia law was never an option.
Right.
And godless law was never an option. So now we've got this mentality that we can rewrite laws that are based on all these different viewpoints rather than ones of the Judeo-Christian worldview. And we're not saying everybody has to convert to Christianity or Judaism.
Right.
But that was the foundational basis for our legal system.
Mm-hmm.
And it served the world really well until we screwed it up.
Mm.
So I'm hoping we can get back to our roots, and I think that'll fix our economy.
Interesting. So now that's a I think that is a sort of philosophical approach that would require you know, a multitude of I think perspectives to change, right?
Yeah.
You know, my thought on that is that that's difficult to do at scale.
Imaginary.
Yeah. Well, it's just that it's just difficult to get that many people to um, with any kind of with any diligence. It's difficult to get that many people to move like that, right? Because it requires sort of a change of uh, um, I think a change of perspective that we're having a hard time with, primarily because I think the media is driving its own initiatives that prevent a lot of people from being able to see outside of the sort of the blinders that they're in. One of the things that I think would be, I think, a game changer is, and this kind of goes back into this idea of like, we've lost our way as a nation. Is that if we can get back to, you know, get back to being a part of our own economy, sort of the microeconomy that you talked about, right? Where and the only way to do that is to become an entrepreneur.
Yes.
If we can get people back on board with the idea of being able to like build their own wealth, build their own micro economy, become entrepreneurs. Like I feel like that is the sort of the small steps that individuals can do that will provide the opportunity for them to understand better. Because a lot of people, when you just have a job, like it's hard to understand like a lot of these other things, because when you have a job, you show up and they just give you a paycheck just for clocking in, right? There's like, hey, I clocked in, I get a paycheck, right? And some people clock in and do work. Some people clock in and don't really do work, right? But both of those people are getting paid.
Yeah.
Right. But when you have a business, there's no clocking in. You either do work and you get paid, or you don't do work and you don't get paid. Right. So there's a connectivity between what you do and what you receive. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sometimes you even do work and don't get paid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But typically, if you do enough of that, you'll get paid. Like there's usually a payout somewhere, right? Typically. So there's a real clear connectivity there. And I think that the more people that are entrepreneurial in nature and do this kind of thing, whether it's real estate or whatever, it doesn't matter what kind of business it is, it gets them a better understanding, because you have sort of a microcosm of an economic world in your own life, where you have to be paying attention to all the different economic factors that are in your life, because it's different when you're running your own business.
Yeah.
Right. Then all of a sudden it makes it much easier for you to understand the sort of macroeconomic elements, so that you're like, oh, that's a hot mess out there.
Yeah.
Right. And then now you can start thinking differently and start doing different things and making different decisions. And I think what's happening now is that people are so, they don't have a clear understanding of how sort of microeconomics works, to then have an understanding of macroeconomics, to then be able to make appropriate decisions that impact macroeconomics.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Oh, I totally feel it. In fact, it's a big problem in our schools. Young people today, and I keep, oh my God, I sound like my grandfather or something.
These young kids!
We walked uphill both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but there is a loss of knowledge or even care of where things come from. Like, I got my hunting license last year. Okay. And saw a video, because obviously, Facebook is stalking you at all times.
Sure.
And so the second I start looking stuff up, I'm getting ads for that, right?
Right.
Or memes or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I see this video of this girl, the college age girl, like calling these guys murderers and saying meat comes from the grocery store. Like, well, dude, how do you not?
You know how to get there?
Did that not click? Like, do you
Yeah.
not? And then you've got people like, oh, we deserve $15 an hour for whatever, right?
Yeah.
Do you?
Right.
Here's what you need to understand. All you see is yourself because you're focused on you
Mm-hmm.
instead of focused on your neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
If you focus on your neighbor more than you, and everybody's doing that, now you've got 8 billion people, well, 7,999,000,000, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Focusing on you instead of if you're focusing on you, you've got only one watching you. So it's kind of a cool system if you think about putting your neighbor before yourself.
Sure.
How that works out if we all did that
Yeah.
really successfully. But when you see how the sausage is made, when you find respect for your neighbor's perspective, when you can recognize that somebody may have a different set of skills than you and a
Mm-hmm.
different perspective, but you at least realize your place and their place in the macro and how you need one another. It's like the dumbass decision to cut off the pipelines and all that stuff. How did you not figure out that everything gets around this country through fuel
Mm.
and that would raise the prices of literally everything?
So I think that one of the challenges that most people run into, and why you hear a lot of these arguments that sound like at that sound a lot of times sound outrageous, right?
Mhm.
Is that again? This goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Corporatism has basically taken advantage of the system in a way
Mhm.
that really makes people feel disenfranchised, right? And when you so someone who says, "Oh well, I deserve $15 an hour," I think what they're trying to say, without saying it's not necessarily the number that's so important, is that they deserve to be able to work and make a living,
I agree.
right? So, and I agree with that. But certain work is not. This is something, a big argument that I have with my wife. Like, certain work is not worth the $15 an hour or
Correct.
whatever the living wage is, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if you go and you're frying fries at McDonald's, like, that's not, to me, that's not a like living wage job. That's for kids to learn how to learn
Well,
responsibility,
thank
right?
you.
That's my view on it, right? Now the problem is that because we have a system that has been corrupted by a lot of corporations. You have companies like Walmart, for example, that they don't pay their staff a high enough wage, and they are basically subsidized by welfare systems,
Mhm.
right? So they basically pay just enough for people that work for Walmart to be able to qualify for welfare. I don't think that a company like Walmart should have that many employees that qualify for welfare. I'm not
Right?
saying all of their employees shouldn't
Yeah.
qualify for welfare, but I think that there's probably a lot more people that should probably be getting paid more versus the profits that the Walmart is getting, so that they don't have to qualify for welfare, right?
Agreed.
Uh, so, but because that's not the case, right? You have a lot of people that are like, hey, listen, I'm working 50, 60 hours a week, and I'm making $12 an hour, and that doesn't cover my living costs, right? And that's a
Mhm.
difficult pill to swallow. So they get angry, rightfully so, and they feel like it's capitalism is the problem, and that rich people are the problem, and they don't realize that the corporate uh, infrastructure that's in place and that the government that is supporting that infrastructure is really what the problem is.
So can I give some advice to that person?
Sure.
Because I've been that person.
Yeah.
So I was that person that was working crazy hours, 2 full-time jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So we just celebrated 17 years of marriage, my wife and I,
Mm.
September 29th.
Congratulations.
Actually going on a cruise next week
Nice.
to celebrate. Excited.
Yeah.
So when we were dating and first married,
Mm-hmm.
I worked 2 full-time jobs overtime at both. I
Yeah.
slept Saturdays.
Nice.
That was it.
That sucks.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sucked, but you do what you got to do
Yeah.
for your family.
Yeah.
Right. I hated it. I was angry. At my day job, I worked for Binder and Binder, which was the country's largest Social Security law firm.
Okay.
Okay. So I worked for them during the day, and I was making. It's funny you bring up $12 an hour. That's what I was making. It was $12 an hour.
Yeah.
Okay. In the call center. All right. But I walked in there with the mentality of here's an opportunity. So here's what I did that nobody else in that call center did.
Right.
At my overnight job, which I was working for developmentally disabled kids in group homes.
Okay.
Okay. So I just had to be there and stay awake. That was my whole job.
Yeah.
Was if there was a behavioral issue, if somebody needed medication, whatever, bathing, all that, that kind of stuff. Okay. So during the quiet hours of my shift, I bought myself a copy of the Code of Federal Regulations and I read. And I was so driven to get ahead and win that I acquired skills. And then I went back to Binder and Bender and did a phenomenal job and became the corporate trainer and got promotions and worked my way up.
Right.
And if I didn't pursue vocational ministry, I would still be in law. And actually, you and I probably never would have met because I'd probably be making big money in law.
Gotcha.
Rather than having to get into real estate.
Okay.
So I took that anger and I did something with it because I still believe that America is still the land of opportunity.
Sure.
Despite all the attempts of these horrible systems that are genuinely, listen, these people have genuine grievances.
Yeah.
I just think with the wrong people, right? I think you have government overstepping and doing things that shouldn't be doing. You have corporations that, yeah, of course they're greedy. Yes, totally agree with that, right?
Yeah.
But corporations that are taking advantage, love them, hate them, no matter how you feel about them. Trump was the first honest guy we had on the debate stage. When him and Hillary had that debate and she said, you don't pay taxes. And he said, that's because I'm smart.
Right.
And he literally said the tax code is public information, so you can go ahead and do that. Now, listen, my personal feelings on taxes.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a whole other story.
Sure.
For a whole other day when you've got a whole lot more time.
Right.
So that's where I borderline libertarian. Okay. But, but in that regard, the reason that we have the tax code and look at our tax code compared to other countries.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Can it use some revamping? Absolutely. I think it can. Do I think it in some ways promotes people to not work as hard at certain price points? It does. It's kind of like when, if there was a cap on my commission.
Yeah.
Right. That okay, then no matter how many houses you sell this year, you can't make more than X amount of dollars.
Right.
Once I hit that amount,
why would you work anymore? Right?
Why would I work?
Yeah.
Right. So our tax code kind of creates some of that, which is why when I hear that they're going to pay their fair share, dude, wow. Okay. That's a whole other story. I guess the point I'm trying to make is this is still the land of opportunity. Even with those other issues, even with the hybrid models, look, I agree, we need revamping.
Yeah.
But even with all the crap, that young person who's flinging burgers, who's like, I can't pay my rent like this. Well, duh. That job is not a pay the rent job.
Right.
That is I still live at home with mommy and daddy, and I want some extra money, and I'm learning how to work and build work ethic job. It's something to help you put some money in your pocket for you to learn some skills. So now, if you're really angry that you've capped out at $12 or $15 an hour here, now use that anger to motivate you to level up instead of playing a victim and saying it's everybody else's fault for this. Because let me tell you, dude, if we go back just 200 years and kids today had to experience what life was like then, they'd be very happy to flip burgers for $12 to $15 an hour.
Sure.
And I think we suffer from chronological snobbery in this country. We have forgotten and I'll hopefully this doesn't open up a whole other can, even the whole gun debate. Okay. We have created a facade in this country. We have been so blessed by God. We have been so spoiled. Our life has been so easy for the most part, there's pockets,
Sure.
okay? But for the most part, for the last 100 years, like we could sit here right now and we don't have to be afraid that somebody's about to walk into this room and try and kill us.
Correct.
That is an anomaly in world history. Throughout world history,
Yeah.
most times, in most places, the reason it was gentlemanly for the man to face the doorway and for him to sit on a certain side of the bed and for the bed to face a certain, all of that is because throughout human history it's been dangerous and
Yeah.
terrifying and not secure.
Right.
And so we have this like overly spoiled, blessed, where we don't even know where food comes from anymore.
Well, it's the grocery store.
Right. So we've lost our way in a lot of ways. And here's, I'm going to make an ironic statement.
Okay.
Okay. As much as I don't want to see our downfall, as much as I don't want to see incredible poverty, as much as I don't want to see an economic or governmental collapse, nothing would be better for our kids and grandkids than for them to see that hard times will make strong men again.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now we have weak men.
Yeah.
And it's gut wrenching
Yeah.
because I'm trying to raise my boys to be men that treat women with respect and love their neighbors more than themselves and have a net positive impact in the community instead
Yeah.
of being a drain. I'm not raising consumers, I'm raising producers.
Right.
I'm raising men, not boys who can shave. And if we have a whole generation of that, our country will turn around. If we don't, this might be the final chapter, bro.
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know if it's a final chapter. I think it'll probably get bad and then it'll get better. Like it's done that in the past. It's just I think that we're also. I think part of it also is social media has completely changed the way that we even perceive society, and that it has the ability to manipulate the perception of society. For a long time, people believed everything that was on, social media, on the internet, stuff like that. And now people are coming to the realization that, oh, this is not real. This is not reality, right? And it's impressive how little people actually do their own research to find out if information is true or not.
Yeah.
So my hope, and I think this is probably a good place to end this. My hope is that there will be an awakening as it relates to what is real and what is true, because the facade of I would say the gloss that has been on sort of American society for so long has been cracking for a long time, and now people are starting to really see like what's behind the mirror and starting to realize that, oh, wait a minute, this is not where we started. This is not what we thought it was. And the reality is that there are significant challenges that we have to overcome, and we have to figure out a way to do that together. It can't be just me against you. Like we can't do that. Like there's a clear effort to divide. I think the people in this country, and people are starting to get wind of that, and that is starting to become. And I know people talk about the Civil War and all that stuff. I think that there'll definitely be conflict. I don't know that it's going to be like violent. I think it's more likely to be the case is that because we have so much access to information, as long as people are willing to take some time to look into things a little bit more with a little bit more depth, that they'll realize that, oh, it's not you, my neighbor, I have to worry about. It's this other thing outside of us that we have to worry about. Because what I find in real life, because I know that there's a lot of conversation about division that's happening, but what I find in real life is that, and I challenge anyone who tells me, oh, everyone is so hateful or whatever the case may be. It's like, okay, are you seeing that in your day to day? Because I don't see that in my day to day. I see that on social, and I see that on the news. But when I go and walk in the world, like I don't see that. Do I live in a bubble? I don't think I live in a bubble. I live in a part of the United States just like every other part of person who lives in a part of the United States. So like I don't see all the division that people are talking about. It's hard for me to find it, as a matter of fact. And then I oftentimes meet people that I don't agree with, and we have civil conversations. And we don't get
Yeah.
into like hateful commentary, right? People just say, I don't want to talk about it because, we can't have conversations about religion and politics. I'm like, those are the two conversations you need to have that's most important for you to have in life. Like religion and politics. Like those are the two things. Like your philosophical view about the world, right? And then your spiritual view about the world. Like those are the two most important things to have conversations about.
100%. And it's got to be face to face.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because on social media, it's everybody's a keyboard warrior.
Sure.
And I love that you brought that up. I especially like I remember when I was a kid, so I'm 38.
Yeah.
I might be the last generation that had this before social media was there when we were kids. But like if we had a problem, you had to talk it out, and it's much more difficult for me to call you a bunch of expletives when you're in my face.
Yeah, you know why?
Because I'm about to get decked in the face.
Yeah, there's a threat of violence.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
That's important.
Right. Well, that's the thing is believe it or not, that actually creates a forced level of respect.
Sure.
Because fear and respect is a fine line.
Yeah. Well, that's the nuclear deterrent, right? That's the whole idea of like nuclear. Why we haven't gotten into a war with Russia because there's a reason. Like that would not end well for everybody, right? So like that's a macro version of a micro, kind of thing where what you're talking about is like the reason why you and I having a conversation face to face, why we have to figure this out civilly, because if we don't figure it out civilly, even if I know that I can beat you or you know you can beat me, we both know that it's not going to end well. We're both going to end up with bloody faces, bloody knuckles, like it's just not going to end well. And our preference is not to end up like that. Even if I win, I lose, right? So I was like, well, maybe we don't. Let me see if I can figure this out civilly, so we don't have to worry about all the blood and guts part, right?
Well, I don't know about you, but in my experience, on the playground,
Mm-hmm.
the kid that decked you in the face became your best friend.
Sure.
And I think there's a lot to say about that.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, as you said, there's clearly outside influences trying to create this level of division.
Sure.
And the average person who I talk to, whether they agree with me or disagree with me on these issues, at least we walk away with a level of respect.
Yeah.
And I grew up with some of my closest friends. We disagree on almost everything.
Sure.
But would literally kill and die for each other.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the America I miss.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, if we all agree, that's horrible. It means we joined a cult.
Yeah.
Okay? We shouldn't all agree.
Right.
Philosophers would say the strongest unit is something that has unified diversity.
Yeah.
And that was what we were.
Unified diversity of thought.
Right. That was what we were as a country at one point. And we've lost that. And I would agree with you. It's outside influences that have brought us to that place.
Yeah.
And I agree, man. Like, I'm not seeing it in the streets. And I have conversations. I try to avoid politics, but I'm very open about my faith.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very open about where I stand on the important issues.
Sure.
And but I've been able to have articulate conversations where we could at least walk away respecting, just still disagreeing.
Sure.
But respecting and genuinely caring about one another.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what my experience has been outside of social media.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I don't want to keep you. I know you got a lot going on. We got lives to get into.
Oh, wow.
Right. So I really appreciate you coming out and like just one, talking about your business, and two, getting into this whole politics and religion. I love that. These are conversations I enjoy having. Yeah. So I appreciate you sharing your perspective. I think a lot of the viewers that are going to be watching that, I think they're going to really appreciate that as well. If somebody wants to find you, where's the best place to find you?
Well, geez. I mean, I'm on all the social media platforms.
Okay. How do you under?
So if you just look up either Vincent Cordero.
Okay.
or the Living in Orlando, Florida team.
Living in Orlando, Florida team.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Facebook, X, Instagram,
Nice.
all that jazz. My YouTube channel. My website is livinginorl.com.
Okay.
So it's like living in Orlando, but without the ando.
Okay.
And yeah, so if you click on there, you'll be able to see my YouTube channel, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Get in touch with me on there. And I use my personal cell phone for everything.
Okay.
I will answer
Sure.
if I'm conscious and not in a meeting.
Nice.
Even though I just did hit end right in the middle of this.
So. You were in a meeting, though.
Yeah, I was in a meeting. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and that's on my website as well. So,
awesome. And then the content that you typically do is typically like getting more familiar with what Orlando is and neighborhoods and places to go and visit. And is that kind of content you do?
It's a combination of that with some house tours and like I have a show called I Got a Guy for that.
Okay.
So on an episode, and I try to keep it creative.
Okay.
So on an episode I did with Joe Jameson on All About Mortgages with Joe Jameson. So my background though, like we were at the Salt Shack in downtown Claremont. I'm going to be getting together with Genesis from Magnolia. And we're going to be on Plant Street drinking local Axum coffee in Winter Garden.
Nice.
So I'm just trying to show all the different locales.
Yeah.
Maybe the outside of the Disney bubble stuff.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Where the locals go.
Right. Where the locals go.
Yeah.
And mix in good information so they can learn about real estate.
Yeah.
And learn about all the different areas around Orlando at the same time.
That's awesome. So if they want to find out where's a good place to live, you're going to be able to have some content to kind of showcase that.
And you already know I know the good places to eat.
So.
Just awesome. Saying, don't ask the skinny guy where to eat.
No way. That's wise advice.
Thanks, buddy.
Listen, I appreciate your time. This has been the Ortiz Anomaly. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you guys. If you like what you're hearing, please like. Please share, please comment. If you want to hear about anything else that we have, or if you want to learn about anything else, please make sure you leave a comment below. Go visit Vinny at all his different socials, at all his different websites to learn more about real estate. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Peace. All right.
Cool, man.